You deliberately undermined my authority in there. This level of disregard is unacceptable.
I made an executive decision, Thomas. The company cannot wait for your approval.
The microphone crackled as the applause faded, leaving only the hum of the overhead lights. Evelyn Carter smoothed the edge of her blazer, her presentation slide still glowing behind her, sharp, clean, flawless. She'd spent 6 months preparing for this moment. "Thank you, Ms. Carter," the moderator said into the mic, smile frozen like a photograph. That was inspiring. Then he leaned just slightly toward the man beside him. The whisper wasn't quiet enough. Surprisingly articulate, a few scattered laughs from the front rows. Someone cleared their throat. Someone didn't. Evelyn felt the shift. Subtle like the floor tilting, the panel chair adjusted his tie. "Before we move on, we'll have a few questions. But let's keep it relevant to her background. Her background, not her work. Not her company, her background." The first question came from a middle-aged investor in a navy suit. No notes, no hesitation. "How exactly did you get funding?" His voice was measured, but there was that soft undertow. "I imagine it must have been difficult. For someone like you." The room went silent. The air seemed to congeal. Cameras pointed. Evelyn kept her spine straight. She'd been here before. Boardrooms, banks, panels that tested her patience more than her skill. But this time the cruelty was public. Recorded, broadcast live, then came the final cut. A woman in the third row, red lipstick, expensive watch, raised her voice. "Let's be honest. She's a diversity showcase." It landed like glass shattering. Evelyn's hand curled around the lectern. Her pulse drummed. She heard every breath in the hall. And then, a single flashbulb popped. A headline was born. The moderator smiled again. "Shall we proceed?" The moment calcified, an injustice in real time. And Evelyn Carter, CEO, decided. The applause had already thinned by the time Evelyn stepped down from the podium. But the heat of the stage lights still burned into her skin. She could feel it on the back of her neck. The way attention clung to her not because of what she had built, but because of what they saw when they looked at her. Behind her, the presentation screen dimmed to corporate blue. Before her, a semicircle of men in suits sat like a panel of judges, not peers. The moderator, gray-haired, square jaw, held his microphone like a gavel. "Thank you, Ms. Carter," he said, his smile just too thin. "An inspiring talk." The murmur that followed was polite. Not warm, not curious. Polite. The kind that built walls. The man to his left leaned forward and cupped his hand to his mouth. Not enough to hide. Surprisingly articulate, a ripple of laughter. It wasn't loud. That was the cruelty of it. Quiet racism always left room for denial. Evelyn kept her chin steady. Her jaw locked. Her company's name, Carver Tech, glimmered in silver on the backdrop. It meant years of survival, fights in rooms like this. "Before we proceed," the moderator continued, "let's open the floor to questions, and let's keep it relevant to her background." Her background. Not her research, not her scaling strategy. Her background. The first hand went up, a man in a navy suit, silver watch, posture relaxed like he already owned the room. "How exactly did you get your funding?" he asked. His voice was a silk blade. "I imagine it must have been difficult for someone like you." Evelyn's fingers curled against the lectern. She heard the microphones pick up the tension, the clipped edge of her breath. Cameras glimmered from the press pit. Every word now had witnesses. "I secured it," she said evenly. "The same way anyone does. By building something worth backing." He smiled like that was cute. A woman's voice cut through next. Red lips, gold bracelet. "Let's be honest, she's a diversity showcase." The sound was soft but surgical. Someone in the third row inhaled sharply. Another smirked. Evelyn didn't flinch. Flinching was currency they wanted. She scanned the rows. Journalists, executives, venture capitalists. Their faces told her everything. Who was entertained, who was guilty, who wanted to pretend nothing had happened. The moderator chuckled softly, as if to smooth it all over. "Shall we proceed?" Evelyn stepped back from the mic. She didn't move fast. She moved like a fuse burning. Someone coughed. Someone whispered. The room held its breath. A single flash popped. Then another. A journalist mouthed the word viral without sound. The conference stage had turned into a trial. She'd been sentenced without verdict. As the applause resumed, mechanical, obligatory, Evelyn Carter understood with surgical clarity, this would not stay in this room. It would not die in this hour, and it would not be forgiven. She walked off the stage with her head high, but her shadow fell long behind her. The conference's networking hall smelled like polished wood, chilled champagne, and performance. Conversations clustered in tight circles around tall tables. Suits angled their bodies toward each other like doors shutting. Evelyn entered through the side corridor. Applause from the main hall still echoed faintly behind her, hollow now. Her heels clicked against marble. Every sound carried. Every gaze was calculated. She passed a group of mid-level investors. One lowered his voice, forgetting, or not caring, that microphones didn't have to be present anymore. She froze up. Not so polished after all. Optics, man, another replied. That panel loves their little diversity moment. Evelyn didn't stop. She never gave them the satisfaction of a reaction. A PR manager intercepted her halfway to the main lounge. Young, nervous. Wearing the company badge of the hosting firm, Garrison Partners. Ms. Carter, just a moment, he said, tugging at his tie. His eyes flicked to the cameras, then back to her. I just want to say we're so sorry about how that might have come across. Everyone here respects your work, she waited. Silence stretched. His smile twitched. What you experienced on stage, well, best thing to do is to take the high road. You know how the media gets. This will pass. Evelyn's gaze didn't soften. It won't pass, he faltered. Well, of course, just, we encourage a constructive tone when the press. She stepped past him. His words trailed off like steam. Near the far wall, the CEO of Garrison Partners, Richard Keene, laughed with 3 board members. His voice was smooth, the kind that built empires by excluding without naming. Evelyn paused just enough to catch it. The clip's already out, Keene said. Let them eat it up. Makes us look progressive just having her here. Boardroom laughter, hands around champagne stems. Thin smiles. Evelyn moved closer, not hidden, not welcomed. Their eyes flicked to her like they were checking the weather. Keene turned smoothly, practiced. Evelyn, congratulations on the presentation, really trailblazing stuff. Trailblazing, one of the board members echoed, mouth curled. You'll understand, Keene added, voice pitched low, that these events have their own dynamics. No need to escalate. Evelyn tilted her head. Someone called me a showcase. An unfortunate phrase, Keene replied, hands spread in mock regret. But you're strong. People like you don't break over words. She stared at him until his smile thinned. Then remember those words, she said. People like me don't break. She turned before they could reply. The silence she left behind wasn't respect. It was calculation. Past the catering table, a woman from another firm caught her arm gently, whispered, They think you'll give them a soundbite. Don't, then walked away. No solidarity, just strategy. Evelyn found a corner near the glass wall. The city skyline spread beneath the night, cold, polished, oblivious. Her phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from her communications director, 2 from a reporter. A notification blinked at the top of her screen. Diversity showcase trending in the top 10. The clip. Already dissected. Already fed into the machine. An assistant she didn't know approached, clutching a branded folder. Ms. Carter, press is asking if you'd like to make a short statement. She took the folder out of the woman's hand without looking. No statement. Understood. Evelyn looked at her reflection in the glass, composed, deliberate, coiled tight. She'd spent years earning the right to stand on that stage. They'd spent 10 seconds trying to turn it into a performance for their comfort. Their mistake wasn't the insult. Their mistake was doing it in front of a camera. Behind her, the laughter resumed. Lighter now. They believed they'd set the terms. Evelyn Carter knew otherwise. By dawn, Evelyn's face was everywhere. The clip of the panel, just 32 seconds long, had been spliced into every angle. The whisper, the laugh, the woman's diversity showcase line cutting through the air. Someone slowed it down. Someone added subtitles. Someone looped her expression when she didn't flinch. The internet loved a spectacle more than truth. Cable news anchors sat behind gleaming desks, Voices lowered to that faux concern register. It's gone viral. She's one of the few black female CEOs in her field. Some are calling this a teachable moment. Evelyn muted the television. She didn't need to hear them explain her existence. She scrolled instead. Tweets. She handled it gracefully. Why is everyone so sensitive? Classic corporate theater. This is exactly why representation is a facade. Memes followed. Then think pieces. Then carefully worded statements from people who hadn't been in the room but wanted their names attached to outrage. Carvertech's press team called at 6:13 a.m. Evelyn, you need to issue something. I won't be part of their narrative. Reporters are requesting comment. Then they'll have to find another angle. Silence. Then carefully, the board wants reassurance. She ended the call. Outside, the city was waking. Glass towers caught the first light. Her office sat on the 37th floor. Below, the conference venue still carried the banners from last night. Garrison Partners' logo shone like nothing had happened. Evelyn watched the comment section climb. Thousands, then tens of thousands. Influencers dissected her expression like an artifact. Corporate executives released statements of solidarity written by lawyers. By mid-morning, the moderator had posted a non-apology. I'm sorry if anyone was offended. That was never the intent. The woman who said the line released a PR-crafted note. We must do better. This is a learning moment for us all. They hadn't apologized. They'd sanitized. Evelyn walked into her conference room at Carvertech headquarters. Her communications director, Lena, was already there, hair tied back, tablet in hand. Press storm. You know that, Lena said. They're circling. 5 networks want you live, Evelyn sat. They want me to bleed on camera. Not speak. They want a quote. She looked at the muted TV on the wall. A split screen showed her standing on stage, jaw set, overlaid with outrage at tech conference. They want control, she said. Lena lowered her voice. If you stay silent too long, they'll build a narrative without you. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. Then they'll choke on it. The door opened. CFO Malik Ahmed stepped in. He placed a folder on the table. His tone carried none of the PR's careful edges. Our name's trending with theirs. Carvertech's share price is stable for now. That won't last. Evelyn didn't look away from the screen. Good. Lena frowned. Good? They've made this public, Evelyn said. That's where I'll break them. Malik exhaled slowly. They're bigger, older, dirtier, she stood. Then they've had longer to rot. Phones kept buzzing. Reporters kept calling. Hashtags kept multiplying. But beneath the noise, Evelyn Carter wasn't cornered. She was charting every name, every statement, every silence. She wasn't waiting to be vindicated. She was preparing. The boardroom at Garrison Partners smelled of old power. Oak paneling, thick carpets, discreet security. Cameras were barred from this floor. Reputation was managed behind closed doors. That was how they'd always kept it clean. Evelyn sat at one end of the long, polished table. Across from her, the company's legal counsel adjusted his cufflinks with theatrical calm. The walls were lined with framed awards. Diversity and innovation. Corporate leadership excellence accolades bought, not earned. Richard Keene entered late. The room shifted around him like gravity did the work. Ms. Carter, he said, voice smooth as lacquer. Appreciate you taking the time. Evelyn didn't respond. She didn't need to. He wasn't thanking her. He was posturing. Their general counsel leaned forward. Let's establish the framework here. We take what happened very seriously. The panel situation was regrettable. But we've reviewed the footage carefully and, well, no malicious intent was detected. Evelyn's gaze didn't flicker. No malicious intent? We saw no evidence of targeted discrimination, he continued. It was an unfortunate phrasing, perhaps, but we've received statements from all parties involved. Everyone regrets how it may have been perceived. Perceived. Always that word. A blade dulled for legal defense, Richard folded his hands. This company values diversity. You being on that stage was proof of that. Evelyn spoke with surgical precision. I was on that stage because I earned it. Not because you granted permission. The board members exchanged brief looks. One adjusted her glasses. One tapped a pen against the table. The PR director smiled with practiced warmth. We'd like to move forward constructively. Perhaps a joint statement, something that shows we're all on the same side. Evelyn leaned back. We're not on the same side. The silence that followed was taut. Richard finally exhaled through his nose, measured, contained. Look, you're in the public eye now. We're in the public eye. Let's not escalate this unnecessarily. Everyone's careers are involved, including yours. Evelyn held his stare. I don't negotiate my dignity. The legal counsel cleared his throat. We'd strongly advise against litigation or public accusation. It would only fracture relationships in the industry. And you understand how these things resolve. Resolve meant vanish. Richard stood. This company doesn't bow to internet outrage. We're untouchable, Ms. Carter. Don't mistake noise for power. Evelyn rose too. Power doesn't stay untouchable forever. For a brief second, his smile slipped. Just a crack. But cracks spread. She left the boardroom without shaking hands. The security guard at the elevator nodded stiffly. Down the hall, 2 junior staff whispered. Their faces carried the kind of fear reserved for people who knew power but not justice. As the elevator descended, Evelyn replayed every word in her head. Not their content, their structure. Denial wrapped in civility, threat wrapped in professionalism. They thought silence would starve the story. She was going to feed it oxygen. Rain hammered the city in thin vertical lines, streaking the glass of Evelyn's penthouse office. She didn't look at the storm. She looked at the map on the screen in front of her. Names, companies, capital flows, connections, pressure points. Lena closed the blinds behind her. We have calls scheduled with 3 journalists off record. 2 investors want to check the temperature. Everyone else is pretending not to choose a side yet. Evelyn kept scrolling. They will. Malik entered, laptop under his arm, rain still glistening on his coat. Financial disclosures for Garrison Partners. Their last quarter looks stable on paper, but debt's climbing. They're overleveraged on 2 acquisitions. Quiet but dangerous. Evelyn didn't smile. Good. Lena crossed her arms. You're going to turn this into war. It already is war, Evelyn said. I'm just the only one refusing to whisper. She opened a private line. The call rang twice before a gravel-edged voice answered. Evelyn Carter. I knew you'd call. Marcus, she said. Marcus was an old contact. Venture capitalist, public when it suited him, strategic when it didn't. He'd built a career on reading weakness before anyone else smelled it. He chuckled. That clip didn't just hurt them. It cracked their board. I've had calls all morning. People are nervous. Nervous people move money fast, Evelyn said. You're thinking buyout. I'm thinking leverage. You always did play quiet until it mattered. I'm done playing quiet. Marcus paused, weighing. I can put you in touch with 2 funds that would love to bleed Garrison dry if you lead the charge. They won't get their hands dirty, but they'll back your weight if you make the first move. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Send me the terms. Lena watched her with restrained intensity. If you do this, it's not just your company's name. It's you. They'll come after everything. They already are. The call ended. Evelyn switched to another contact. This one answered in a rush. I saw the board meeting footage, said Janine, investigative journalist. They're lying through their teeth. I need more than headlines, Evelyn replied. I can dig into their contracts. Sponsorship deals, internal bias audits. But if I publish, this gets ugly. Good, Evelyn said. Janine exhaled slowly. You're not aiming for an apology. I'm aiming for the foundation. By late afternoon, a quiet storm was taking shape, not on social media, but in inboxes, investors, journalists, lawyers. People who usually looked away were now turning their heads. Not from principle, but from the scent of weakness. Malik set another file on her desk. Leverage ratios. If their share price dips 12%, they breach covenant. That opens the door for hostile acquisition. Lena's voice sharpened. You've thought this through. Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't have to. In the evening, she stood at the window again. The rain had slowed, but the city still glistened like something waiting to break. She dialed one final number. Caldwell and Hunt, a voice answered. High-end corporate lawyers, this is Evelyn Carter, she said. I need acquisition strategy, quiet, clean. The voice didn't ask why. Money made certain conversations efficient. As she ended the call, Lena finally spoke. They wanted a showcase. You're giving them a reckoning. Evelyn's voice was quiet. They put my name on a stage to decorate their power. Now they'll watch it become a blade. Garrison Partners went into defensive posture before they even admitted it. Statements tightened. Scheduled interviews vanished. Internal memos leaked. Not by accident, but because fear loosened loyalty. Evelyn watched it unfold like a structural collapse in slow motion. Lena tossed a printout on the desk. Their comms director resigned this morning. Official line is family reasons. Unofficial line, she doesn't want to be tied to what's coming. Malik opened a spreadsheet. Their market cap dipped 3% overnight. If it hits 10, their leverage triggers. Marcus and his people are circling. Evelyn stood at the center of her office, still as a blade. Across the city, Richard Keene entered his own war room. Glass walls. Frantic assistants, a digital ticker bleeding red. "We're not letting her dictate this," he said. His VP of legal answered with a dry voice. "She's already dictating. Public narrative is hers. Investors are skittish. 2 of the funds are asking about restructuring." Richard slammed a hand against the table. "Then remind them who built this company." "Reminding them doesn't fix their fear," the VP replied. "Fear follows money." Meanwhile, Evelyn's legal team prepared filings. Civil rights complaint, breach of duty notifications, strategic leaks. She didn't move through the system as a victim. She moved like someone who knew where the levers were buried. Janine, the journalist, called on a secure line. "I've got internal emails," she said. "Board chatter. They called you optics insurance. They knew what they were doing." "Send everything," Evelyn said. "You're sure? This goes public. There's no putting it back in the box." It was never in a box. By noon, her comms director coordinated messaging with 2 investor blocks. Lena issued short statements, measured, precise, impossible to twist. Evelyn didn't speak publicly. She didn't need to. The story now spoke for itself. Inside Garrison, Richard called an emergency board meeting. "This is a storm," he said. "It'll pass if we stay unified." One board member, older, steady, shook his head. "Storms don't pass when the foundation's cracked." "She's not asking for a settlement. She's after control." Richard's jaw tightened. "She can't get it. She already has the narrative. And investors don't fund liabilities." Silence spread. The scent of panic hid behind polite language. Back at Carver Tech, Malik reviewed new reports. 5 institutional investors have shifted from neutral to exploratory on Garrison assets. "They smell blood." Evelyn didn't look up from her screen. "Good." Lena lowered her voice. "They're not just losing face. They're losing balance." Evelyn finally lifted her gaze. "Exactly where I need them." The next 48 hours carved cracks deeper. Whispers in financial circles turned to open calls. Headlines sharpened their tone. Janine published her exposé, emails, board minutes, internal remarks. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was proof. Richard's face appeared on television, jaw locked, giving a brittle denial. "We're committed to diversity, and this narrative is being distorted." Markets didn't care about denial. They cared about pressure. By evening, the company's stock price had dropped another 4%. Investors called emergency meetings. Employees whispered about resigning. Law firms watched with interest. Evelyn closed her laptop, the city outside her window bleeding orange in the dusk. She hadn't won, not yet, but the weight had shifted. Power, once hoarded behind polished oak and scripted statements, was starting to lean her way. The email came at 4:12 a.m. Quiet, unmarked. From a private equity contact Marcus had promised but never named. Evelyn opened it without hesitation. One sentence: Garrison shareholders want out. They're looking for a buyer. She read it twice. Not because she doubted it, but because it confirmed what she had engineered. Pressure had become fracture. Malik arrived 2 hours later, black coffee in hand, eyes sharp. She slid the tablet across the desk. He scanned the message. "It's real?" "Confirmed," Evelyn said. "Then this is the opening." Lena joined them, hair tied back, face drawn from long hours. "If we do this, there's no going back. Acquisition makes it war in the open." "It already is war," Evelyn replied. Malik brought up the numbers on the wall display. Market cap bleeding. Covenants breached. 3 major shareholders had already signaled liquidity interest. Polite language for "we want out before this burns down." "Marcus has funds waiting," Malik said. 2 institutional, 1 private. Enough to mount a serious bid. They'll want majority control in exchange for backing. They can have partial, not control, Evelyn said. Lena paced. "This isn't a press cycle anymore. This is dismantling a machine. They'll hit back with every legal weapon they have." Evelyn's eyes didn't move from the numbers. Then we make it fast. She met Marcus that afternoon in a hotel suite overlooking the financial district. Marcus leaned against the window, suit crisp, expression predatory.
I told you cracks were coming, he said.
They're bleeding out in real time. I don't want them wounded, Evelyn answered. I want them cornered, he smirked. I like how you think. They spent 2 hours outlining structure, shell entities, clean acquisitions, debt leverage timed to coincide with another wave of public pressure. Evelyn would lead the bid. Marcus would reinforce it. The funds would strike like a scalpel, not a hammer. By evening, lawyers from Caldwell and Hunt had a draft. It was simple in shape, lethal in intent. A silent majority acquisition offer structured through layered trusts. Garrison's shareholders wouldn't even have to face her directly. They'd sell to save themselves. At Garrison headquarters, Richard stared at the same numbers on his dashboard. But his looked like blood loss. His COO spoke in clipped sentences. 3 major shareholders want to unload. We're losing confidence, and then we make a counteroffer, Richard snapped. With what money? No answer, the board whispered. The room smelled like panic beneath polished air. Across the city, Evelyn signed the first legal filings. Ink on paper. No applause. No performance. This was the language of power they had never expected her to speak fluently. Lena watched the signatures harden into strategy. They're going to see it coming at the last second. They don't have to see it early, Evelyn said. They only have to see it too late. By nightfall, Garrison Partners was no longer defending its reputation. It was defending its existence. And it didn't even know who held the knife. The morning Garrison Partners received the acquisition notice, the building's glass facade reflected nothing but gray sky. Storm weather. Inside, the boardroom was already filled. Executives, legal teams, shareholders with faces pale under hard light. Richard Keene stood at the head of the table. The acquisition document lay in front of him like a verdict. Who the hell is Carter Holdings? He demanded. Legal counsel cleared his throat. A layered trust entity. Registered offshore. Structures clean, no leaks. They now control 41% through secondary acquisitions. 41, Richard repeated. His voice thinned. How? Because someone moved faster than you did. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Whispered calculations began. Debt, leverage, voting power. The PR director kept her eyes down. The CFO didn't. Evelyn entered without waiting to be announced. Black suit, no jewelry, no smile. She didn't bring a lawyer. She didn't need to. She was the lawyer now, every head turned, even the ones pretending not to. Richard's voice snapped. You have some nerve walking in here. Evelyn walked the length of the table like she owned it already. Because she did. Nerve isn't required. Ownership is. She placed a single folder on the table and flipped it open. Inside, notarized contracts, shareholder agreements, filings time-stamped and sealed. The signatures were already in place. The general counsel exhaled softly. She's consolidated to 51. The room froze. Evelyn didn't sit. This board miscalculated. You thought a public insult would bruise me. It built me a lever. Richard leaned forward, jaw tight, voice low. You think money buys history? I don't need to buy history, she said. I just rewrote yours. Board members started recalculating loyalties in real time. Power isn't moral. It moves toward heat. The CFO cleared her throat. With a majority share, she has control of the board appointments. She doesn't have the culture, Richard spat. This company is built in silence, Evelyn cut in. On press releases. On polite racism dressed in profit margins. The PR director winced. Evelyn placed the final sheet on the table. A notice of leadership restructuring. Her name at the top. Richard's at the bottom. Termination clause highlighted. Richard laughed once. Short. Sharp. You won't last a quarter. Evelyn met his eyes. You won't last the next hour. The CFO spoke again carefully. We can either contest this in court and lose money we don't have, or execute a leadership transfer and stabilize the stock. The board should vote. One by one they did, not because they believed in her, because they believed in survival. Richard's name was erased from control with 7 signatures. When the legal counsel confirmed the transfer, Evelyn finally sat down. She didn't smile. Power isn't joy. Power is weight. Richard pushed his chair back slowly, metal scraping against wood. You think this changes anything? It already has, she said. He leaned closer, a man stripped of armor. They'll still see you the same way. Evelyn's voice was steady. Then they'll have to see me from below. Security entered at legal counsel's nod. Richard walked out without turning his head. The boardroom stayed silent long after the door closed. Evelyn looked at the contract one last time. 51%. Majority control. The same building where they'd laughed at her now answered to her signature. Malik entered quietly from the hallway. Lena followed. No applause. No victory speeches. Just stillness. It's done, Malik said. It started, Evelyn answered. Outside, financial networks lit up with alerts. Breaking. Carter Holdings acquires controlling stake in Garrison Partners. Analysts dissected numbers, not morality. Commentators scrambled for angles. Inside the boardroom, the woman they'd once dismissed as a diversity showcase sat at the head of the table in silence. The war wasn't loud. It ended in paper and signatures, exactly how their kind always thought they'd keep it, only now it was hers. The ink was dry, the signatures sealed. The company that had humiliated Evelyn Carter now belonged to her. But the building itself didn't celebrate. Its marble floors and glass walls carried the same indifferent chill. Power didn't change the air. It only shifted who breathed first. The press swarmed outside, barricades and lenses stacked in rows. They wanted a speech, a soundbite, a face they could project onto the story they'd built around her. Evelyn didn't give them one. Inside, the corridors of Garrison Partners were quiet. Executives walked faster now, not out of respect but uncertainty. HR sent out transition memos. Legal wrapped up termination documents. Nobody smiled. Malik walked beside her as she moved through the executive floor. Stock price stabilized overnight. Investors are calling this a clean transfer of power. You forced their hand. It worked. It worked, she repeated, voice flat. Lena caught up, tablet under her arm. Richard's legal team requested a courtesy meeting. He's trying to save face. Evelyn stopped in front of the boardroom door. He doesn't have one left. Richard Keene waited inside. No suit today. Just a man stripped of the armor that had shielded him for years. His voice had none of the practiced charm.
Congratulations.
You got what you wanted? She didn't sit. No, I got what you built on other people's backs. He let out a dry laugh. You think this makes you different? This place was designed to survive people like you and me. I'm not here to survive, she said. I'm here to make sure what happened to me never gets buried. His smile cracked. You'll find out soon enough. The system doesn't fall. It absorbs you. Then I'll be the thing it can't digest, he didn't reply. His silence was the sound of a man realizing the power he'd weaponized was now on someone else's desk. She signed the final document in front of him, a formality confirming the leadership transfer. The same table where he'd once smirked at her was now just furniture. No grandeur, no absolution. As she left the boardroom, Lena's voice was low. They'll rewrite this story in their way. They always do, Evelyn answered without looking back. Not before I write mine. That night, alone in her apartment, the city glittered beneath her windows. She poured nothing to celebrate. She sat in silence. Victory didn't roar. It rang hollow around the edges. She'd won the war they started, but wars leave residue. Her phone lit up. Thousands of mentions, news clips, commentators dissecting her every expression. Some praised, some dismissed. Some called it justice, some called it optics. She turned the screen face down. The reckoning was never about spectacle. It was about weight. They had forced her onto that stage as a prop. She had dragged them into the light as fact, and tomorrow, the same machine she had cut open would keep moving. But now, it would move under her hand. The gala that once excluded her was now hosted in her name. The same marble atrium where she'd been humiliated months earlier stood wrapped in sharp white light and glass reflections. This time the banners read Garrison Partners, New Era Summit. Cameras lined the entrance. CEOs, fund managers, and public officials filtered in wearing curated smiles. A few avoided her gaze. A few approached out of obligation. Power doesn't erase bias. It forces silence around it. Evelyn stood at the edge of the balcony overlooking the floor. The orchestra below played something polished, soulless. Malik stepped up beside her, tie undone, exhaustion stitched into the corners of his face. Stocks up 12%. The board has stopped pretending they're in control. They never were, she said. Lena joined them, her voice quieter. Press wants a statement. They'll get a speech, Evelyn answered. But not the one they expect. Downstairs, Richard Keene walked in escorted by 2 lawyers. A settlement deal had stripped him of control, titles, and protection. But the arrogance hadn't fully died. He scanned the room like he still owned it. People avoided him. Power had shifted, and parasites always migrated to the warmest host. Evelyn descended the staircase slowly. No smile, no pretense. Just presence. The murmurs quieted. She walked to the podium. The spot where months ago she'd been mocked in front of hundreds of corporate leaders. The microphones hummed. Camera shutters clicked. She placed no speech in front of her. When I stood here last, she said, voice carrying clean and sharp, I was told, directly and indirectly, that I didn't belong, that I was a diversity headline, a joke to applaud for PR, then step over when the lights dimmed. The silence was absolute. She didn't look at Richard, but his stillness at the edge of the crowd was loud. You tried to make me small, she continued. You failed. She lifted a hand. On the screen behind her, press clippings appeared, not of her rise, but of every silent, procedural injustice Garrison had buried. Lawsuits settled quietly. Promotions denied. Voices erased. Receipts were louder than speeches. You built your empire on silence. I learned to weaponize your paper trail. The crowd shifted. Lawyers tensed. Investors recognized that what she was doing wasn't branding. It was exposure. I didn't burn your house down, she said. I bought the deed. One clean, brutal line. It landed. Richard exhaled sharply through his nose. Not rage, recognition. This isn't about me, Evelyn finished. It's about every door you locked behind polite words. They're open now. You don't get to close them again. She stepped down. No applause. Not at first. Power rarely gets ovations when it's speaking truth, but one person clapped. Then another. It wasn't celebration. It was acknowledgement. Lena met her at the foot of the stairs. You know this will start wars. It already did, Evelyn said. Richard turned to leave. Cameras followed him. Not as a titan. As a cautionary headline, outside rain began to fall, soft, unceremonious. Evelyn walked through it without covering her head. Malik and Lena flanked her in silence. The building behind them pulsed with artificial light. It was hers now. Not clean, not pure, but hers power hadn't erased the past. It had forced the world to see it. Poetic justice isn't loud. It's a signature. A door opening. A man walking out of a building that no longer answers to him. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The story had already shifted.